Hello, BookTube. It's Holy Sunday today. This is Holy Sunday 30, episode 30 or whatever. I've been doing this for 30 weeks now, and to celebrate this, not really a milestone, I'm going to keep reading you the book of Margery Kempe, not as a read through, but just to show you my favorite chapters and ultimately persuade you to read this absolute diva of a book. And so, chapter 3, we're going to be going through today. I know this is a bit of a far jump back from what the last couple weeks we've been going around those like 20 to 30 chapters, like around there. But I chose chapter 3 because this is one of the great hero origin stories ever of the creature herself, Margery. This is her before she traveled, the first person to ever travel, and we get to see what she was going through with her husband and the annoyance that he was in her life. But anyway, I don't want to spoil it, so let's start. This is chapter 3 of the book of Margery Kempe. One night, as this creature lay in her bed with her husband, she heard the sound of a melody so sweet and delectable that she thought she must have been in paradise. And with that she started out of her bed and said, "Alas, if I ever did sin, it's so merry in heaven." This melody was so sweet, it had surpassed beyond comparison all the melodies that could ever been heard in this world, and caused this profuse and abundant tears of high devotion, with great sobs, sighs, and bliss of heaven from the creature. Without fearing the shame and spite of the wretched world, and ever being drawn to God like this, she had in her mind the joy and melody that is in heaven. So much so that she could not very well restrain herself from speaking of it, for when she was in any kind of company, she would often say, "It is so merry in heaven." And those who knew of her previous behavior now heard her speaking so much about the bliss in heaven, said to her, "Why are you speaking so of this joy in heaven? You don't know it, and you haven't even been there before like as much as we have." And they were cross with her, and she would neither hear or speak of worldly things as they did, and as she had beforehand. Also, after this time, she had no desire to have sexual contact with her husband, for the conjugal debt was so I can't say that word to her. She thought she would rather have eaten or drunk the slime, the muck in the gutter, than consent to any sexual contact, except out of any obedience. So when she said to her husband, "This is what I'm going to say to my husband when I'm not in the mood. I may not deny you my body, but the love and affection in my heart is drawn away from all earthly creatures and only fixed on God." So you'll see his reaction when I say that. He would have this way with her, and she obeyed with great weeping and sorrowing, because she could not live in chastity, and often this creature lived chaste, advised her husband to live chaste, and said that they often, she knew well, displeased God by their inordinate love and great sensual pleasures that each had been using each other's bodies. So now it would have been a good thing if by the will and the consent of both willingly punished and chastised themselves by abstaining from lust of their bodies. Her husband said it would be good to do so, but he might not yet. He should do so when God wished. And so he used her body as he, what did he do? As he had done before. He would not cease. And all the time she prayed to God that she might not live chaste. And 3 or 4 years later, when it was pleased our Lord, her husband made a vow of chastity, as shall afterwards be written by Jesus' leave. 4 years later, anyway. And also, after this creature heard this heavenly melody, she did great physical penance. Sometimes she was shriven at confession twice or thrice a day, especially of that sin she had so long concealed and covered up. As it was written in the beginning of the book, she gave herself so much fasting and contemplation. She got up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and went to church and prayed until noon, and also all through the afternoon. So she was very dedicated. And then she was slandered and I can't say the word, by many people because she kept so straight to a lifestyle that she got herself hair cloth from the kin, the kind that people used for drying malt, and she laid it in her gown as subtle and privately as she could, so that her husband might not see it. And indeed he did not, even though she lay beside him every night in his bed and wore this haircloth every day and bore children all the time. Then she had 3 years of great travels with temptations, but she underwent as meekly as she could, thanking our Lord for all his gifts, and was so merry when she was disgraced, scorned, and teased amongst the dignities of this world. For she knew very well that she had sinned grievously against God, and deserved more shame and sorrow than any man could cause her, and contempt of all the world, the right path with heavenwards, since Christ himself chose the path. His apostles, martyrs, confessors, and virgins, and all those who ever came to heaven, went on the path of tribulation, and she desired nothing so much as heaven. Then she was glad her conscience, oh my god, I can't say that word, when she believed she was entering upon the path that will lead her straight to the place she had most desired. And this creature had contrition and great compunction, with her profuse tears and much noisy sobbing, for her sins and her unkindness against her Maker. Very many times she thought about her unkindness since her childhood, as our Lord put in her mind, and then, beholding her own wickedness, she could only lament and weep continually, and pray for mercy and forgiveness. Her weeping was so profuse and consent that many, constant, not consent, that many people wanted and assumed that she could not weep and leave off whenever she wanted. And therefore many people said she was a false hypocrite, and that she wept in the public for comfort and the world profit. And then many people who had once loved her while she was in this world abandoned her and would not acknowledge her, and all the time she thanked God for it all, desiring but mercy and the forgiveness of sin. So that was chapter 3 of the book of Margery Kempe. Margery spat some bars. She said some iconic stuff when she turned down her husband. I can't even. That's so iconic. But yeah, go check out the book of Margery Kempe if you haven't already. It's such an iconic read. And we'll see what Margery gets up to next week. But yeah, thank you so much for watching BookTube, and I will see you next time.